Hi everybody, welcome to week 12. We are getting there. So this week we are talking about things that we can share with and learn from others. I've mentioned before that teaching can be isolating, whether you're in academia or in the clinical setting, because so much of it, the prep work and the presentation, are often done alone, right? And so even if you meet regularly with other educators, like for meetings and things like that, often those meetings are about like the business work of the department, the business work of the college, and they're not often very focused on enhancing the actual process of teaching and educating. Okay? And so that's where we need to bounce ideas off other people. We need to get our juices flowing. We need to see what other people are doing. We really need that to help us stimulate our creativity, keep up to date on new things. So there's a lot of good things about not being isolated in education. I've mentioned teaching circles before, and I'm going to include a link to a brief article about teaching circles. It's from a website from another university. And a teaching circle can take many different forms. But it does require a little bit of vulnerability because we're going to be sharing both our strengths, kind of like this DQ question, and what it is that we want to work on. What do we want to get out of this teaching circle? What do we hope to gain? Okay, so it might be, like one of you are doing with new residents, it might be a journal club where you're sharing ideas and that sort of thing. It might be reading a book together. It might be going to each other's classrooms and doing direct observations. It might be working together to develop a teaching strategy for some particularly complex or dry content. So it could look a lot of different ways. Also, it can be within a discipline, so it can be nurse educators, or it can be across disciplines. Now, in academia, I think it's a little easier to do across disciplines because there's actually disciplines there. In the clinical setting, though, there might be educators, for instance, that maybe work with residents in your hospital, or maybe the respiratory department, if you're a large enough hospital, has their own educator. So there might be some other people to pull from. If not, it might be working with educators within your corporation or maybe educators within your local area. So there's a lot of ways that this can look. But the whole point is it really is beneficial to connect with other educators. All right. So as far as this discussion question, I think things that I particularly can help new faculty with are seeing the big picture and pulling the pieces together. How the objectives, the content, the teaching strategies, the evaluation strategies, how all those have to really tie together and how that can be accomplished in a very practical manner. Also, I'm pretty good at accreditation. That's kind of another area that I think is my strength. Areas that I'm always looking to prove, one area in particular is how to connect with online students. There are many strengths to online programs, most definitely, but we need to be better at staying more connected with our students. That's one of the reasons, obviously, that I do these YouTube videos. But I think we need to do even more. So that's an area that I'm always trying to look at and learn. All right. So next week, the portfolio is due that we've been talking about forever. Just a few little tips on that one. So the goal of a portfolio is to present information that's needed when you're applying for an educator position. So your portfolio should reflect as if you were applying for some sort of educator position, okay? Because it's going to talk about your career objectives and things like that. Okay, second, you're going to be writing about all those different NLN educator competencies. Now, in the discussion questions, we were writing more about how you hope to meet the competencies or we're starting. Okay. The portfolio is all about accomplishments. And so you won't accomplish every single task under each of those competencies. but you need to share what you have accomplished. Now, it doesn't mean what you've just accomplished during your practicum. It can be anything you've accomplished during your career under those different competencies. Okay, so definitely not just limited to practicum. You are provided a template. Please feel free to use that template, and you can modify it as you need. You could individualize it, get creative if that's your thing. It's whatever. And then please don't hesitate to ask me any questions. I want you all to do very well in this assignment. It's an interesting assignment. I think it helps you to reflect on what you have accomplished in the education areas, and then also help to identify some areas that you still want to work on, and maybe as you enter into a different or new educator position, things that you would want to gain maybe during an orientation process or something like that. All right, guys, I think that's about it. Please ask me any questions you have about the portfolio assignments. All right, guys, I'll see you in the main forum.